Welcome to the Factory Ops Exchange podcast, hosted by the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing and by Guidewheel. I'm Lauren Dunford, CEO of Guidewheel and Executive Committee Member for the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing. Today, we're joined by David Ariens. He's a former educator, founder of the IT/OT Insider, and former industrial digitalization leader at BASF. His work sits squarely at the intersection of theory and reality on the factory floor. In this episode, we dig into the reality of what it takes to connect systems, teams, and data so technology actually works for the people on the factory floor. Let's dive in. David, so great to get to have a conversation today. I cannot wait to find out exactly where it takes us. You have such a fascinating background, really experiencing the IT/OT challenge and the reality, and also now learning about everything that's happening in the industry and directly influencing it. And I just have loved, getting to benefit from the frameworks you've created, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah, cool. Likewise, this is gonna be really interesting. So just fire away.
Well, maybe I've been listening to some of your recent podcasts, and I think the tension between theory and reality keeps coming up as a very interesting topic. Where are you on that right now? What are the things you're wrestling with when it comes to the reality versus theory?
That's actually a really good question. I always lived in this blurry zone between IT and OT. Sometimes I identify myself as being more IT-alike, and sometimes it's being more OT-alike. And I think dealing with all the buzzwords around us, it's basically a daily thing. And the cool thing of working in this intersection is that I guess that's really where you get hit the most by all those buzzwords. So a couple of years ago, it definitely was blockchain and I don't know, something augmented reality. The things of a couple of years ago, right?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And then that changed with ChatGPT. So all of a sudden, it's all Gen AI. I think at this point, obviously, we're getting hit now in our face by all things agentic AI. That's one thing where we've been doing some work now to clarify that a bit more, that domain. I think another one, when we talk about data platforms, data systems, I think something like a unified namespace, that's probably one of the hot terms right now.
Yes. And maybe this is just me putting it very bluntly, but have you seen any manufacturers that are approaching this in a way where you say, wow, that's gold standard? Because it's hard, so hard in practice.
I wish I could say yes. Okay, let's back off. So if we talk about becoming a data-driven manufacturer, obviously there are companies who have been investing in it for years and years. You know, something like a unified namespace is also nothing new. But I must say that when I was the last weeks and months, when I was trying to make sense of manufacturing AI, I got some insights which I think like, okay, these are worthwhile to explore further. And so the thing we always want to do with the IT/OT Insider is I want to avoid talking about technologies, and I want to avoid just talking about buzzwords. I always want to, I want to try to first understand myself and then explain what I think it should be about. So when we were discussing like what is artificial intelligence right now, because for the one, it's, as I said, it's something chatbot alike. For the other, it's still machine learning. So first of all, we were thinking like, okay, what are the I would say the big families in artificial intelligence. I have a mathematical background myself, so I clearly come also from the machine learning things and vision systems, etc., etc. So typically, we see, okay, it's about machine learning, let's say more the classical AI. Used to be about generative AI, now it's about agentic AI. But that doesn't really explain the problem we're in. So we took a step back and we went like, okay, if we look to how a typical manufacturer is working today, then you could say that on the one hand, they have the physical twin.
Yes.
The physical twin is the actual thing, right?
Yes, exactly.
where they actually make their money. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then they have multiple digital twins. A digital twin can be in all ways and shapes. It can be your data historian, it can be your quality system, it can be your engineering system. Maybe it includes some 3D visualizations as well. But you have all these different systems which contain a small or larger part of the digital representation of that physical asset, right?
Yes.
So the normal way of working is you put operators and engineers in between. They get data from one system and they manipulate it in the physical twin. Now, luckily, a couple of years ago, well, a couple of decades ago, we introduced this thing called automation. And with automation, what we basically do is, well, we do the repeatable work, which we can easily program into a control system, and we take that away from the operator. So again, the automation system gets some data from the digital twin, makes some calculations and sends it to the physical twin to work on. Now, if you look to what we are doing with AI right now, then I would say that AI are bolt-ons on these different modules. So call it an add-on, a bolt-on, whatever. But best thing we can do is, now we have I know on our historian or on our trending tool, we now have an AI agent which makes it a little bit easier to get some data out of a trend. Or the automation system, maybe you have something new and you have integrated it with Claude and you can maybe the engineer, you can use some LLMs to make the engineering process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But there are still add-ons. So if we really want to make a step change and we really want to have this AI thing embedded in our operations, then we have to do two things, maybe even three. Let's see where we come. So the first thing is, obviously, all these different digital twins, they can't live in silos. Somehow, we need to put a data platform next to them. Brings us a little bit into the UNS discussion, but okay. So first of all, we need to connect these digital twins, which means where is your master data? You know, who rules them all, etc., etc. Lots of challenges. And then secondly, you can only have a good AI controlling the physical twin if you also understand the physical reality on the other side. So that means that somehow you need that those physical models as well. And if you have those two, then maybe we can start working towards something we now call a virtual engineer or a virtual operator. This is not really important. But then you have the physical operator, which gets augmented by a virtual one. But we can't do that with just the bolt-ons we have today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting because also I think and by the way, I love the multiple digital twins because you're so right. I mean, maybe this is a dumb question, but if you have a representation of an asset in your ERP, that's also a digital twin, even if it's just
Of course.
in your ERP, your MES, you may have a different one in your maintenance system, whatever.
But just think about the level of duplication we also have. Because typically in all of those systems, you have some representation of a part of the plant. And there is also so much duplication going on. I used to work also a bit on the engineering side. How many, I'd say, things still live in Access databases, Excel lists, in copy of a copy of a copy of a PNID. There is so much duplication that it's, even if you have the data, it's hard to go like, this is the master and this is how it all connects to each other.
I was my typical prep for any conversation where I want to know a little bit about the person that I won't find just by doing a quick Google search is to do a deep research through ChatGPT and then upload it into Notebook LM and have it make a podcast for me. So in the podcast about you, what ChatGPT came up with, which you're going to have to tell me if it's something you really said or if they made it up. Oh, I guess this was Notebook LM coming up with it. But they said, while you think of data in a manufacturer as hopefully being like a nice library where you can go to the right shelves and find the right book, and there's one of each where it makes sense, duplicated if it should be. Instead, what it is like a bunch of file cabinets, some locked, all with different ages, like types of data, duplicated all over the place, and then a bunch of piles around all as well, plus some missing data. Did
well,
you say something
it sounds like something I would say. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the duplication and then the still missing spots. And when you were describing the physical twin, the machine itself, let's use a piece of equipment as an example.
Yeah.
And then the digital twin, the thing I was thinking of was not only the instructions coming with some automation from the digital to the physical, but also the physical to the digital, that even a manual record of what was the runtime on this machine, what was the downtime, all of that, even if someone is writing it down on a clipboard and then giving it to their manager to enter into an Excel somewhere, which is also maybe a digital twin or one piece of it.
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all the same type of let's keep the digital and the physical in sync, but that it's been so painful in so many ways to do that.
Yes, I'd say the IT/OT Insider, you know our work. We don't talk about, well, we don't really talk about specific technologies or specific choices someone can make. But I think the most important thing I also say, I don't know if your notebook LLM extracted that, but that's typically like there is enough technology. The technology is for this particular problem, not a problem. It's how companies organize themselves, how, yeah, making the business case to solve this, I would say this data foundation is a very hard case to make. Having said that, the problem is if you don't do it, then yeah, good luck with all your other AI initiatives. They will fail.
What do you say? So say I were a manufacturing leader. I've got 50 plants. 10 of them are a recent acquisition. The other 40 are mixes of different types of manufacturing. We have some vertical integration, so lots of different things that we do, lots of different ages, makes, models of equipment. My oldest one is, 1952. How would you, and we've got some plants, especially the recent acquisition, 4 of those 10, I'm making stuff up here, but 4 of those 10 have an MES. The others don't. How would you walk me through the process by which I should be thinking about what to do and what to do first?
Yeah, you're not making something up. This is like the definition of manufacturing. It's all because also, how many greenfield plants do we really like pure greenfield? I'm not talking about an extension somewhere, but pure greenfield plants. We're not building so many
And even
of
when
them.
we do, it's often there's second or third hand equipment in amongst equipment.
Yeah, 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 and even if it would be new equipment, then typically we would build it with, I would say, the ideas we have at that time, which most likely will not be the same as what we did when we built our previous plant a decade or so ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Actually, my latest article was actually all about this, and the coincidentally. So I think the most important thing is that we shouldn't change the automation, the foundation. We have to really treat it as a given.
By automation as the foundation, you mean the instructions flowing from, oh, let me keep consistent sides, from the digital to the physical.
Yeah, so I would say
What do you mean by
yeah,
automation? Find what you mean by
yeah, yeah, your PLCs, your SCADA, the HMIs, the things which are actually the real OT, the OT part of IT OT. It's I've seen so many projects fail where at a certain point in time a certain team says like, we have a good idea, we're gonna standardize, I don't know, our naming convention, our PLC vendor, or whatever. So that's bound to fail. Even if you would start such an initiative, as you said, a new M&A coming in, very long life cycle. So you really do not want to touch your pure OT layer. So that means that at a minimum, we should start by building a layer on top of that. A layer where, first of all, we need to figure out what is the most important business case, most important use case we have to or we can solve right now. And that's not so it's not so easy, but in order to find that use case, that means that you have to have this collaboration between typically some kind of a central team and combining that with local experts. Probably those plants who are, I would say, most eager to start a change. Now this now becomes a really interesting trade-off. Because obviously we typically say like, yeah, it should be something particular for a site, but you also don't want to customize too much. So you need to find those use cases where you see that there is a value to run it across I would say, multiple plants where you see like, okay, there is scaling potential, where you see that there is a business case probable, and where you have at least some first site managers or, you know, whoever is involved who go like, yeah, this actually makes sense for me to step into this. To do so, you need to have some level of standardization in your approach. This can't just be like, we're going to try this and this and this. No, you have to have some kind of standardization. Standardization in everything. Eh? So your software stack, your hardware footprint.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to every single plant and then decide on a new hardware footprint or a new cybersecurity footprint because that's also not going to scale.
Yeah.
So you need to have some kind of standardization.
Yep.
And then the difficulty, and that's really, really difficult, is how are you going to build that namespace? How are you going to, I would say, tie everything together in a way which is scalable on its own? And that's, I'm going to be really honest here, it's a challenge
Yeah.
because yes, we have something called ISO 95, which is a good foundation. But still, you need to start somewhere and you need to make decisions and who is going to make those decisions and what is the layout of our plans, etc., etc. It's not that easy, but it's possible to do that. And then after if you have these early successes, then you have to do something which is very, I would say, not really a common thing to do for engineers, and that is to be really proud of what we've done and to market the hell out of it,
Yeah.
right? Because you want to create traction from your
Yeah.
from your other sites as well. But yeah, it's like this engineering
Yeah.
thing to do.
Completely. And I love that. So thinking about, okay, what's standardized and then what's co-built together with the sites and finding the right ones who are going to grab and pull. Two things are coming to mind. First is I really liked a conversation that we had at one point with a great customer who was trying to figure out, okay, where do we deploy first? Which sites? And they said, all right, we want to look for sites where the leaders, A, know what they'll do with data.
Mhm.
They know how to use it.
Yeah.
And two, where they want it. So they know what to do with it and they want it, and
Yeah.
that's the winning combo, and
Yeah.
that makes everything else a lot
I think
more doable.
one of the, now this is not really data platform project, but many years ago I did a digital operator project where you mentioned the paper, so where we basically just got rid of the paper and went to a tablet for manual entries. The way we started, first of all, indeed, we selected a plant where we know like they were super hungry to change something, right? Now that happened to be the biggest one on the side, but that doesn't really matter in this case. Good thing is they had money, so that's always easy because you need a sponsor. What we then did is we selected some key users from the shift teams, so the operators themselves. And we really started identifying like, okay, if we would be changing paper to digital, what would that actually mean for you as an operator?
Yeah.
Because when I got I would say the mandate from management, David, we need this, then the idea the management had was, if we change paper to digital, we're gonna reduce the time it takes them to write something down, which is obviously crazy. But if you go to the operators, they always do the same checks, and it doesn't really matter in this case, or we only want to do this if this happens, etc., etc. And then even somebody said like, you know what actually would be really, really easy? If the previous value would actually be pre-filled. And management went like, no, we can't do that. Because if you pre-fill the previous value, then maybe they are lousy and they're just clicking next. But the operators went like, David, this is no. Because if I immediately see the previous value of the previous shift or whatever, I can immediately spot that there is a change and I can act upon it. That's different mindset from between the operator and like the top-down management mandates, so to say. Those differences were really, really big. But because we really worked, I would say, day in, day out with the operators, it became a success because they had the impression like, okay, they actually understand us. They make our work easier, better, more fun maybe. And then, so when that project was a success, I was asked to internal promotion to roll it out to the other sites.
Yes.
And I said like, I'm not gonna do that. I think that we can only do one thing. You know what? We're gonna have operators themselves talk to each other. Let them talk, and then let's create a pool. And the years to come, every plant wanted that solution because not because we said so, but because the operator said it to them between themselves. That's what you wanna create.
I love it. How did you, just very tactically, to create that plans, create forums where operators from the plant that had the digital solution and kind of co-built it could share?
Yeah.
Did you use Teams? How, if you were putting myself in the shoes of a manufacturing leader saying, I want to do that tomorrow, how did you do it?
Yeah, that's pre-Teams, but I think what the most important thing we did is we actually tapped into the existing internal communication channels of the site. At that time, that was a physical magazine which was given to everybody who worked on the site. And we really showcased in the pictures we took. I wasn't on those pictures. It was an operator doing his his story with a tablet. And that's just how it went. And then the discussion of the conversation became easy. And the fun thing is that it actually took us a couple of years to start building actual business cases for this tool. And the reason is because in the beginning, you're basically just, I would say, replacing what you have. You make it a bit better, maybe a bit faster. You won't be able to find that business case immediately for these types of applications. But if you give that a while, by just the simple fact that people start using that data, that after a while, it should be able to get that business case rather easily. And that's true for everything. For the project I did so many years ago, but it's also true now for a data platform. You need this integrated digital twin in order to actually get value on your data consumption or your AI side. And yes, it's gonna take you a while before you get that first tangible ROI, but you need a management team who goes like, yeah, we do understand foundations are important, so let's invest in this.
Yeah, completely. It's that kind of, here's what you need in place before you can start, achieving benefits. When this is me being asking a very basic question, but what do you mean by unified namespace? If you had to define what that means for our audience. Yeah.
Very, very simple. Centralized data access in context. Okay. So that means that centralized data access, that means I have some kind of a platform approach where I can get all my data, whether it's historian data, whether it's MBS data, whether it's quality data, it doesn't really matter. All the data is available in this centralized platform. So that's the first part of the definition. And then the second part of the definition was in context. In context means I have an asset context, ISO 95. I have my production context. For example, I know what I was producing. I have a quality context. I have a maintenance context. I know what maintenance problems were active at that point in time. And that is my simple definition of a unified namespace.
One of the things that I'm curious about is we've got the ERP. Most manufacturers have one, pretty good generally up until the moment a production run is scheduled. Pretty good also once a product exists and is ready to be sold. What we see a lot is there's the WIP black hole in between production unscheduled and product ready to be sold. It's the hodgepodge. That's where hodgepodge becomes the worst. And the problem in manufacturing is WIP is what a manufacturer does. You are literally using machines to transition raw material into product ready to be sold. So when you're talking about the unified namespace, are you talking about the context and data in that WIP black hole, or are you also going into the sides of what's in the ERP? What matters most?
Yeah, I think the ultimate state, let's put it that way, the ultimate state would be everything, obviously. Yeah, I'd say the reality today is, I think we would be already really, really happy campers if we would be able to have a part of the WIP in this case, as you mentioned it, but any case of the manufacturing process itself. Let's put it very politically correct. I haven't seen too many integrated data platforms across all, I would say, functions of operations. And so all these different digital twins really integrated. I haven't seen too many applications yet. Sure, they exist, typically on a smaller scale or for specific use cases. But it would already be a very good thing if we have that part. But obviously, the ideal state would be much, much, much broader. And actually, if you think about this virtual operator idea, then you actually have to have your supply chain data as well, because if you would like to make these more advanced decisions based on, yeah, should I produce this or that? You can only know that if you know, like, okay, what are my current raw material costs, or which vendor is complaining the most, or vendor or customer, I'm sorry, is complaining the most, or,
Yeah.
you should need more. You need more,
Yeah.
ideally.
Yeah, completely. Oh, I wish we could talk forever. I'm going to take us into a little bit of a speed round of some last questions in a moment. But first, anything else on that topic you want to make sure you share? Because you think about this all day, every day. Like you said, your most recent paper is on this. What else
Yeah,
do you want to make sure to share before we start closing?
just start.
Just start.
Yeah,
Yes. Great. Love it.
stop talking about it.
Good message. Well, maybe second to last question. Favorite manufacturing process?
Having been in the chemicals for 12 years, so there is this one thing where I still miss that. I really do. And that it's if you drive past a chemical production site, a big chemical production site in the night, you have all the lights, you have the flares, you have the, yeah. It's,
Beautiful. Yeah.
so every time I pass by the Antwerp, I'm living in Belgium, in Antwerp, so you have the harbor here, and then every time I drive by night in the harbor, I go like, oh,
Oh, so beautiful.
I know.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old, and so we were in a place the other day where she looked up through a skylight and saw the stars, and then we went out and she looked at the stars in the night sky. And the other night we were in San Francisco just looking out our balcony, and it was very foggy. So she says, "No stars, twinkle twinkle, no stars." And I think I've got to take her to see some twinkling cement chemical plants too with all the lights.
Yeah. When my kids were still very small, they said like, yeah, they said that Daddy is working in the cloud factory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally accurate. And then last one is just you read about this topic all the time, books that you're reading right now, books that you've read over time and recommend for folks interested in these topics.
Yeah. So this discussion was a bit more on the data platform side, but yeah, you know that I'm personally more on the organizational side of things. Like, okay, how do you create a mutual understanding between each other? How do you cooperate between the silos, etc., etc.? So I'm gonna grab them here behind me. I always have my favorite books just behind me. The Phoenix Project. It's a book about DevOps. The setting is a manufacturing, and the cool thing is that, and we can do another podcast on that as well if you like. But there are so many similarities between the old way of IT internally working between IT dev and IT ops, and what we now, if we talk about IT OT cooperation. But there are so many similarities to be found in how IT changed their ways of working and how I think IT OT should also change their ways of working. And then the second one is team topologies. Both are actually published by IT Revolution. Team topologies is all about cooperation models. How do you work together between teams across products, etc., etc. And for those who are interested in our work. So if you go to our blog, we have an article on IT/OT cooperation models, and that's fully inspired by that second book, so by the book Team Topologies. And for those who really want more our story and I would say a tailored learning experience, we also have our IT/OT Academy. And in the IT/OT Academy, we also use these concepts really as I wouldn't say the only basis, but one of the base frameworks to understand that, the collaboration and how it's today and how it should change, in our opinion.
Yeah. Amazing. And just, I love your recommendations already. I think I told you before we started, I'm most of the way through the Phoenix Project now, and it's a great read in addition to very thought-provoking. So now I have team topologies written down, and I can only imagine the IT/OT Academy.
It's more on the organizational side of things, but I'm sure you're gonna love it. And actually, the second release of the book is coming out this month.
Cool.
So I would say pre-order the second release instead of the first one. It's here. It's gonna be released in a couple of days anyway. So
amazing. David, you rock. Your enthusiasm is just so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
A huge thank you to David for such a thoughtful conversation. His perspective is a great reminder that digital transformation starts with meeting people where they are. When we bridge IT and OT and give the people closest to the work the tools to lead change, that's when we can have the biggest impact. If this episode sparked ideas for you, share it with a colleague and follow the Factory Apps Exchange for more conversations with leaders shaping the future of manufacturing. Thanks for listening.